Chess friends, I hope you are doing well. Today I have a very incredible and thrilling chess game that I played with the Plenty Chess engine, which is the brand new chess engine currently playing in the Computer Chess Championship on chess.com. I played some games with it in the Bullet Championship, and this game is very marvelous. I will share the chess tactics and traps that we employed in the game. This will enhance your chess ability and vision. So, let's get started without wasting any time. I started the game with e4, we have c5, the Sicilian defense, and e6, deploying the French Fries Sicilian defense. Now we have d4, and after some exchanges, at this point, knight to c6 was playable along with g6 and knight f6. If black dares to consider knight to c6, this would be a healthy move choice because after a few moves, bishop to c4 will arrive to get access to this dark square diagonal. Therefore, after bishop to c5, it will pressure my d4 knight. Consequently, knight to b5 will happen, castling will follow, and you can see that I will create some dominance over the dark squares, along with my bishop, where my queen is activated. The game would continue like that. You can also push forward your fg and h pawns, and your life will be very good because you have the territory and armies to invade black. Black might even be left standing with no choice before opening the toilet room. Going back to the vision, Plenty Chess didn't consider knight to c6. Noticing this because my attacking is very fast, it tried to play the a6 move, deploying the current variation where it seizes control over the b5 square, where my knights along with the bishop cannot be activated. However, by playing a6, it also created some weaknesses over the dark squares where my bishop can swim into this ocean, this Pacific Ocean, and my shark knight can arrive to catch some fishes there. Alright. So let's see what will happen. Additionally, if the queen gets the open diagonal, that's not such a big advantage. Therefore, after a few moves, we have a bishop to c5, attacking the knight. At this point, playing knight to b3 might be a reasonable choice for many chess players because after the bishop moves back, you can play queen to f3, putting pressure on the pawn. Therefore, black might play knight to e7, because knight to f6 will be a terrible choice. Since e5 is on the board, black will be very Mr. Clueless, so you have to play very carefully and pretend like you are Santa Claus so children won't play with your long hair. Therefore, black is posing the threat of playing d5. Also, after queen to g3, castling, and bishop to f4, getting access to this diagonal, the knight will come here. After playing long castle, you can see that the file will be dominated by my rook, where the bishop can arrive on the d6 square. My knights are aggressively activated in the center. And bishop to d3 can arrive to attack the pawn. The queen file is vividly open, where the h-pawn can push forward to go to war, a Trojan War that happened between England and France in the 16th century. I think, the version will be very adventurous because we will be written in history in golden words. Going back to the version, I didn't consider knight to b3 to attack the bishop, because I am the champion. Why would I play a very passive move? Let me consider bishop to e3, protecting the pawn with my pieces. Bishop to e2 or bishop to c4 can also be possible. In the game, we have queen to c7 going to g4, attacking the pawn, where black can play g6 on the board. However, playing g6 will create some weaknesses on the dark squares because after I play long castle, no matter what move you play, whether cheating or making some cheat moves in the game, I can still defeat you because I am the biggest, smartest guy in the classroom. After h5 was played by black, a few moves later, I played a very strong move here. Tell me what move you think I played in this position. Try to think a little and guess what move I would consider. Noticing that black has some weaknesses on the dark squares, I played the crunchy move that I can eat for breakfast, knight to b5, sacrificing the knight right on the board. This sacrifices the knight with salt, and I will capture your bishop on the c5 square. Where bishop to d6 can arrive to attack the queen with the open rook file, the position will be just destroyed for you. You know what? I can play bishop to d6, and after I capture the pawn on the b5 square, the knight will be under attack, as well as the knight on e7 and the rook. Therefore, after the rook moves, going to f6 will arrive to dominate over the dark squares. I can capture the knight on c6 and move back my bishop to the e5 square to dominate the dark squares. and your king will face malaria because he is sitting on the park chair where thousands of mosquitoes are present, yet he still won't leave the chair. There is also the possibility of opening up the G file. Since my arrows are so present here, I can put my rook on e3 to get access to the third rank. These moves are possible, right? Going back to the position, we discovered that playing g6 is a very bad choice. That would be a terrible mistake for you. One mistake can ruin your game. Chess is like life. If you make mistakes in life, your life will be very bad. Similarly, if you make mistakes in chess, your chess position will also be very bad. Therefore, after the bishop moves back to the f8 square to protect the pawn from being captured, long castle will arrive. After knight to f6, queen to f3, and h5, will arrive. I mean, plenty chess is doing very well, but the problem for plenty chess is that it lacks development. It needs 1, 2, 3 or even 4 moves to do long castle. Therefore, I played bishop, and after d6 arrives, it is trying to protect the 5th rank, where my knights cannot invade early in the game because its king is not well protected. Its king is located in the center, back into the royal field, sitting in the royal court in the center. Therefore, I played h3, and after b5 arrived on the board, bishop to b7 can arrive to access this diagonal. After a couple of moves later, you can see that h4 has arrived by plenty chess. Here, I played a very masterful move. Can you guess what move I played in this position? Try to think a little and use your vulnerable brain, the brain that failed math in class 9. The move that I played in this position is pawn to g4. This move is very amazing because I am posing the threat of considering g5 and getting access to this open f file. At this point, also knight to f5 is a threat, where I can dominate the king's side as my arrows are present here. Even if you dare to consider knight to c6, this will be a very bad choice. Do you know why? Because now I can play knight takes knight, and after capture, I will consider e5 on the board, attacking the knight and queen simultaneously. The position will just be over for you. Even if you dare to capture the queen, I can capture your queen, attacking your rook and knight simultaneously again on the board. In this position, you have to consider knight to d5 to block the diagonal, but it still does not matter because I can now play g5, after b7 capture and recapture happens, I can play g6. This move is just fun. This move is just a vulnerable move for you. It's like an astronaut collapsing in your city, and you face the consequences and have to leave the city as soon as possible. Something like castling happens in the game, and I will play f7. You can see that my pawn is located on the 7th rank, best for me, and that position will just be over for you. So, let me share an inspirational quote in sudden with you. The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. The past is a place of learning, not a place of living. Going back to the reason, I discovered that playing any normal kind of move would be a very bad choice for you. You have to play very carefully because you are not nonsensical like Plenty Chess or Magnus Carlsen. Therefore, in this position, Black played a masterful move, pawn takes g3, because my pawn was prepared to go to g5 and create some pressure on his position. After the capture, b7 and f4 happened in the game. You can see how my pawns are dominating the board. Black is positioning the threat of capturing the pawn on the e4 square, but it does not matter because I am the god of chess. I can do whatever I want. The problem for Black is that his queen is passive, his bishop is passive, and his knight is still not activated in the game. These are the problems that Black is facing. A couple of moves later, bishop to f3 appeared on the board. Many players might think of capturing the knight on the d4 square, but this would be a very bad choice because you lack development and have very few active pieces. Therefore, you don't need to exchange your pieces. However, if you dare to do so, my bishop will dominate, e5 will come and rook to g1 will activate, gaining access to the g file. Your king is vulnerable and has to decide whether to marry in his early 30s or not. The position will collapse for you because my rook dominates the file. Going back to the position, we discovered that your active piece cannot capture my active piece due to your lack of development. After a few moves, b4 came into the game, putting pressure on my pieces. After exchanges, the bishop's diagonal became wide open, the queen's file opened up, and the knight on b4 started creating pressure. Moves like a5, a4 and a3 were coming with the idea of attacking critical squares with the bishop. The position became favorable for me, even though my king got slightly exposed after exchanging a pawn. Then, queen to g2 arrived to protect the pawn with my 3 pieces. Black played bishop to e7, sacrificing the g7 pawn right on the board. If I dared to capture the pawn on g7, it would be a very bad choice. Do you know why? Because the rook could arrive on the g8 square, and after a few moves, the position would be disastrous for me. This would be bad luck because the knight could capture the pawn on e4, putting pressure on my knight and simultaneously on my queen. The king and queen would both be attacked, and this is not good for me. The pawn on c2 would also be under pressure from black's queen and knight. The bishop might arrive on d5, adding further pressure. These moves by black would force me to play carefully. I am also not nonsensical like you or any top chess engines who call themselves top but have no power over me. Therefore, in this position, I didn't capture the pawn. Instead, I played h4 to protect the square and prepared to push my pawn forward. Black played g6, and after a couple of moves, I played queen to f2, gaining access to important diagonals. Black responded with a5, followed by bishop to b6, attacking the queen and the pawn simultaneously. Chess is like a lotus flower, in muddy water. There is always the possibility of a beautiful lotus blooming. Similarly, in chess, no matter how complicated the game is, there will always be beautiful tactics or traps that enhance the beauty of the game. I captured the pawn and played rook to d2, doubling up my rooks to attack the pawn. Black played d5 to put pressure on my pawn. Here, many players might consider playing e5 or capturing the pawn on d5. But doing so would be a terrible choice. If you dare to capture the pawn on d5, black will play a very strong move. Being a companion of Stockfish and its subscriber, black would play the shocking move rook takes c3, sacrificing the rook. After the capture and recapture on d5, my bishop would be under attack from 2 pieces. Whether or not I capture the bishop, knight takes d5 would create additional pressure. This is not ideal for me and could result in a draw. I need to win the game to impress my subscribers and maintain my lead. Therefore, I didn't capture the pawn but played h5, attacking the pawn. What should black play here? Think carefully. Many players might think of capturing the pawn on h5, but this would expose their own king with their own bad hands and dumb brains. Now, I could play e5, forcing the knight to move. Afterward, I could capture the pawn, and if the knight moves, rook takes rook would follow. A few moves later, black's king would be exposed to my bishop. My light-squared bishop would attack the f7 pawn. Additionally, I could play a5 to open up files, where rook to g2 could arrive with the idea of playing rook g8, leading to checks and possible threats, after queen to g1 and some additional moves. My rook and queen files would open wide, launching an attack on black's position. Black might try knight c6 followed by knight to e7. But it wouldn't matter. Despite his defensive attempts, I am the strongest chess player in the world. No one is better than me. I come from Saturn and you are just a pair of winter shoes for me. Therefore, I would play bishop to c5, attacking the pieces. After bishop takes bishop, I would play bishop to g4, attacking the knights. Black's position would become vulnerable. After exchanges, rook checks would follow, and after the king moves, queen to g5 would deliver a checkmate. Even if black plays f6, I would capture the pawn with my queen, leading to checkmate. The position would be overpowering. Going back, we discovered that pawn takes pawn is a very bad choice. That's why black played queen takes f4, the only viable move. I played rook to h4, attacking the queen. Plenty Chess is a strong opponent and better than any top chess engine. He captured the pawn on e4, directly challenging my position. Many players might think knight takes e4 is a good move because the queen would be under attack, but this is a bad choice, as the rook would also be under attack by the bishop, worsening your position. Instead, I exchanged queens, and after the exchanges, both sides had equal material. Plenty Chess played a solid opening and middle game. Now, we are in the endgame. The good thing for Plenty Chess is his dominant pawn structure, especially over the open rook file. A few moves later, his Great China Wall of pawns started to dominate, despite having only one passed pawn, while Plenty Chess had 3 major passed pawns. I would still win because that is my beauty. No matter which side I play, I will always defeat my opponent. After bishop to g5, rook to c4 and eventually bishop to f4, I could play rook to a6 to attack the pawn, leading to a position that is overwhelmingly advantageous for me. So, in this position, Plenty Chess decided to sacrifice his rook on the f4 square. This rook sacrifice was a very good move, not a bad one. A few moves later, you can see how he's pinning my knight on the board. At this point, I didn't play rook to e2 to unpin my knight because, after the exchanges, king to f6 could arrive, and he could potentially create 3 passed pawns that would dominate my position. At the end of the day, it's not about how many pieces you have, but how much of an advantage you hold in the endgame. That's what truly matters. So, in this position, I didn't unpin my knight. Instead, I sacrificed my bishop on the d5 square, as it was better to sacrifice my bishop to capture all of his pawns, right? However, Plenty Chess didn't accept my sacrifice because he is also a smart player. Therefore, I sacrificed my rook on the e6 square. At this point, he had no choice but to capture it. A few moves later, I sacrificed my bishop again because I was focused on capturing his pawns. I didn't want to let him create passed pawns that could push forward and win the game easily. I avoided that at all costs. We had knight to e6, and now he couldn't capture it because rook to e6 would follow. You can see that this position is completely winning for me because my pieces are controlling his pawns. I just needed to push forward my pawns, which I did. You can see how my pawns advanced, while his pawns became overwhelmed. By promoting one of my pawns into a queen, I checkmated Plenty Chess. I hope you enjoyed the game very much. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Wishing you all the best. Bye bye, take care and see you soon.